I think you've influenced me in that way.
You got lighters?
Dude, I have like 5 lighters now.
Hey, welcome to the club. I got like 3 bourbons, so I get it.
Yeah, I have so many. All right, we're live. We're live in the Holy Smokes Facebook group. We're live on the Faith Community YouTube page. We're live on my personal YouTube page.
Hey, have I showed y'all my newest lighter? Or it's not new. I've had it for a while. Just I've kept it in hiding. It's shaped like a cigar, so it can go in your cigar pouch.
Ah,
right? Isn't that great? It's round like a cigar, and you can't see the flame. Well, it's out of juice, but isn't that great?
I did.
Mm-hmm. It's a different shape. It looks a little bit different. It's got this cool little like cigar type label on it to look cigar-esque.
I like it.
There you go.
I like it. Shout out to everybody who's coming in. Drop us a comment. Drop us a comment if you're with us in the virtual audience. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Hey, sound like you're giving a welcome at a Baptist church there. Welcome once, welcome twice, welcome 3 times.
Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Have y'all seen a Black Lady sketch show?
No, what is this?
No. Oh, it's a Robin Thede. She started it, I think, a year or 2 years ago, and it's just a sketch show, except all of the writers and actors, everyone is a Black woman.
I think I have seen that.
And
this sounds interesting to me.
It's on HBO Max, and you can find some of the clips on YouTube. But there's one that I saw today where it was a church open mic, and then everybody was using it for every purpose but asking for prayer. And I'll just leave it there, and it's hilarious.
That's what testimony service is like sometimes.
Yep. Sounds about right. Sounds about right. Yep. Hey, Angela. What's
come
up?
on in, Angela.
Now we got...
Good to see you, Tyranny.
We got Jacory here. Jacory, if you can give StreamYard permission to your Facebook profile, we can get you up on the screen. Because right now it's just saying Facebook user on our end.
Well, God bless your Facebook user.
Watching from Birmingham.
Coming with me live from Birmingham, Alabama.
Ariana, season 3 patron.
Ariana.
Season 3 top patron.
This, but those tamales are heavenly. Oh my God, they're wonderful. I gave my mom a dozen and I regret it. I wanted to go back to her house and take them back. I shouldn't have done it. And she came over the night we got them. And I want to be like, hey, Mom, you ate those tamales? Can I have that bag back?
Uh-huh.
Can't be an Indian gift, man.
I know, right? I know, but they're delicious. So I'm going to put it in an order right now for when you come back. Give me another 5 dozen. Actually, make it 6. No, 6 is the number of humanity. Make it 7. That's God's perfect number.
Yeah, and they freeze incredibly well.
Mm-hmm. Tell Juan I said hi. That's my dude.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh, yes. What we got? We got Isha.
Come on in, Isha.
Come on in. Everybody, jump in. Jump in. Say hello. We're going to get into this in a minute. This is about to be really good. Rather riveting.
Riveting. Red,
everybody,
yellow leather.
Somebody said,
I'm behaving. This is wine and Coke with ice.
Last time you had green tea. It doesn't matter. Yeah.
I know. It just comes out naturally. Who is this Facebook user?
Karima.
Oh, come on in. I'm good. It's just wine and Coke here tonight. It's the poor man's sangria.
And Karima knows, because it takes one to know one.
She knows, yeah, and I had no almonds.
Because when Karima come in, Karima gonna hit you out the gate. When I gotta get some shit done, I just go to the drink that rhymes with my name, Akila. She's not playing.
Not at all.
Okay, everybody, my mom is here.
Mama Tony.
So we gonna have to, all right, everybody be good. Don't get me in trouble.
Behave. I'm a behave. It's only 4 of us, so I mean, yeah, I gotta behave. I can't hide in the crowd.
I love it. I love it. Let's see here. So welcome everybody to the recording. We're gonna go ahead and get started in a second. I just want to welcome you. This is what we do with our Patreon community throughout the season. We record the episodes live just like this. So it's real casual in the beginning. And then we go into the official recording that will be placed on the podcast platforms. So if you've never listened to the Holy Smoke Cigars and Spirituality podcast, we're 4 seasons deep. You can go and binge all you want to, which from what I've heard, quite a few people do. So by all means, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, whatever you use, go check it out. And you can binge it and you can determine like, hey, I think I want to be a part of this on an ongoing basis, because the visual version is exclusively, for our Patreon community, those people who see the value in the work that we're doing and want to support it. We try to keep some, exclusive stuff for the patrons. So actually, I'll show you here. We have a movement on Patreon. If you go to patreon.com/TFCATL, you can get the live recordings. We got cigars over there. We got apparel. Let me see if I can get this off the screen. We got the Holy Smokes Mobile. That is coming this fall. This fall, the Holy Smokes Mobile is coming. I'm excited about that. And there will be discounts, especially when the Holy Smokes Mobile gets here. If you rent it out one time, that'll pay for an entire year of your Patreon membership, because we're going to be giving discounts to that. So
would you tell me what the Holy Smokes Mobile is? I feel like we said it, but we haven't explained it.
True. So the Holy Smokes Mobile is going to be a cigar-friendly mobile meeting space. So we'll be having our monthly meetups in the Holy Smokes Mobile. So what that happens the second Tuesday of every month. What's up to Jarrell? Who else came in? Jarrell, Elizabeth. Hey, everybody. So we have we'll have the monthly meetup at the Holy Smokes Mobile. We'll be recording the podcast live from the Holy Smokes Mobile, because we were when we started the podcast last year in February, our plan was to always record in person, and then the pandemic hit and that changed everything. But when we come back in person, we're going to do it in the Holy Smokes Mobile, and then people can rent it out. So if you have an event, you want to have a cigar friendly space, you can rent it out for that. It's going to be a beautiful thing. We're really excited about it. Myron has already put in dibs to drive the Holy Smokes Mobile.
I'm driving. I'm so glad. It's redemption for me, because I tried to drive the church van once, and them old ladies let me drive for one Sunday, and that was it.
Why is it only one Sunday?
Well, they said all kind of things. I didn't put down the stool right. I drove too fast. I mean, I shook the van a little bit. I mean, the streets are bumpy. And so I'm coming back. I'm driving the van. I'm driving the Holy Smokes Mobile.
Yeah, the Holy Smokes Mobile will be a RV sized.
Yep, I'm geeked about it. And I'm sure all those women who are on that van are dead.
Is that because of your driving?
Nope. They lived after I drove, but the Lord took them home a year too later.
They were like, "You're driving terrible."
If I'm messing with my driving.
Stupid.
Come for me, the Lord will come for you. I will report.
Yes, Juan will be the backup driver and the mobile chef. Yes.
Kind of sounds like my mom when they came down for graduation. I was driving through Midtown Atlanta, and she was in the back seat with her eyes covered. And then later, I talked to her on the phone. She was like, "You were scaring me with your big city driving."
How is your mom? I didn't get a chance to see her. You tell her I said hi.
Yo,
And then I asked about it. I miss Pam. I haven't seen her online in a while.
every time you do your mom's voice, it just tickles me. It just tickles me so much.
I promise it's wine and Coke. That's it. That's it.
Mom, I tried to tell him. We haven't even gotten started yet. All right. So today we're doing redeeming masculinity. This is going to be fun. Um, I can't wait to get into this. I'm going to give you some of the ground rules right now, and then we're going to get started. So for those who are here, drop your comments, drop your questions. I'm going to tell you a couple of reasons why you should do that. Comments, we like to put them on the screen. So anybody who ever sees this at any point, if you have something impactful to say, you put it on the screen. There have been a number of times where somebody made a comment or asked a question in the chat, and it completely shifted the conversation on the podcast. It actually happened like 1 or 2 episodes ago. Jeremiah Jones, one of our Patreon members, asked a question, and then we just went in that direction. So drop all of your comments. Also engage, because a lot of times it goes down in the chat to the extent that y'all be having y'all own conversation in the chat, not even listening to us. I've seen that happen before. I have to go back and look at the comments and say, what were they talking about? So please drop all your comments and all your questions in the chat right there. Get to know each other. We are about ready. Anybody got any questions about the show? Okay. I want to, for those who have not met V Ivy, I want to introduce you to V. V is one of the newest additions to the faith community, and he's an ordained minister, brilliant thinker. If you're a part of TFC or connected in any way, and you know Melanie Ivy, V and Melanie are siblings. So, there's the family connection there, and we're just excited to have V with us today. Robert, what's up, man? Out in Yonkers. Yes. All right.
Yonkers? Is that in Westchester? One of my favorite diners is out there, the Seven Brothers Diner. Go hit that up and tell me. I had their stuffed sole once, and it was delicious.
Why? Why do you... Myron Randall. All right, we're going to do a 15-second countdown, and we're going to go ahead and get started with the show today. So everybody, if you mute yourselves. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Redeeming Masculinity episode of Holy Smokes, Cigars, and Spirituality. I am your host and the heretic, Christian A. Smith. I'm really glad that you're here. Of course, as you know, we're going to always keep it coming with the disruptive, faith-based content for the everyday person. So shout out to those who are with us live. We're recording this live for the general public today. So thank you to everybody who's with us. While you're here, share it, hit the share button, let somebody know that we're having this disruptive conversation today. So thank you to our patrons who continue to support the Holy Smokes movement. Thank you to all of you who continue to listen on the podcast platforms. We really appreciate you. Today, for Redeeming Masculinity, I got a real good group here with me, and we have a special guest today. Minister V Ivy, one of the newest ministers at the faith community, such a blessing to our ministry. V, if you'll just say hello to everybody real quick.
Hey everyone. Like Pastor Christian said, I am Minister V. I'm excited to be a part of the faith community, and I look forward to engaging tonight with everyone.
That's what's up. That's what's up. So a lot of people know that TFC is a unconventional ministry and non-traditional in many aspects. And I don't even like using that term because, when you break one tradition, you just create another one, but we're unconventional. So you can tell when somebody comes into the faith community and they've been in like Black church, because like some of my members just call me Christian. And then some members of TFC They gonna call me pastor, and I go by whatever people call me. You know, I mean, hey, I embrace the name heretic, so there's not much you can call me, and I'm gonna be offended. So I really appreciate it. It kind of warms my heart when somebody calls me pastor. I'm like, oh, that's so nice, because it's so uncommon. Um, let's see. So what we're gonna do, we have one rule at Holy Smokes, one rule and one rule only. And today we got somebody special who's gonna tell us that one rule. Myron the Mystic, can you help us out, brother?
Here it is. I hope you know it, folks. We have got one rule here at Holy Smokes, but it's so special we say it 3 times. And the one rule is that we honor each other's lived experiences. One rule. I'm going to say it one more time. We honor each other's lived experience. One for the Father, one for the Son, one for the Holy Ghost. Here it is. We honor each other's lived experiences. We don't uplift theories that people have not actually lived. All right. We don't put our theory over somebody's lived experience. So there it is. That's our one rule here at Holy Smokes. And it's based in this brand. I don't want to call it a brand. This theological notion that has been curated by Daddy Grace, is what we call him sometimes, the head of the Holy Smokes movement.
Don't do that. Wait
I'm
a minute.
sorry. Let me back up.
That's
we call
so
him
rude.
Daddy Grace for fun. That's not what we really call him. We call him Apostle Christian Smith.
Stop
That is
it.
what we call him. And the apostle created this idea. We don't call him that. Call him Christian. Call him whatever you want. He created and curated this idea of theological thought called the greatest commandment theology. And this is what it says. It says that your love for God is displayed in how you love your neighbor, which is really an extension of how you love yourself. Therefore, you can't fully love God if you don't love your neighbor. And ultimately, you can't love your neighbor if you don't love yourself. And that's based on Matthew 22, verse 34. Check it out in your own time. But that's our one rule here at Holy Smokes.
Thank you, Myron. I appreciate that. It's just the Daddy Gray stuff. Y'all got to stop.
I'm sorry.
I can't stand you. I cannot.
I hope
stand
you'll
you.
join us for the elevation service that we can do soon as the pandemic is over.
Oh, you get on my nerves. Thank you, Myron. You can be quiet now. All right. Let's do some introductions. So, like, again, we're having a conversation about redeeming masculinity. So, trigger warning. This is going to be a challenging conversation. We're going to challenge many social norms about masculinity today. So the best thing for you to do is come with an open mind, come with an open heart, and also remember our one rule. You can't dictate to somebody else their lived experience. All right. So I just want to put that out there first, because we always say controversial stuff here, but today, when you start challenging people's ideas about gender and gender expression, that just hits at a different level. So, brace yourselves. We're going there. All right. So today, for our introduction, I'm gonna ask everybody to tell us, what are you smoking and what are you drinking, if anything, because you don't have to smoke or drink anything here, but you're welcome to if you want. Then the question I want you to answer is, what comes to your mind when the word masculine is mentioned? What comes to your mind when the word masculine is mentioned? And I want to give us a working definition today of masculine, because I know that can go a number of different ways. So when I use the word masculine, the definition I'm using today is having qualities traditionally ascribed to men. Plain and simple. Having qualities traditionally ascribed to men. That is the working definition. I'll go ahead and get us started with the introductions, and then we'll go from there. Again, I'm Christian. I'm the host. I'm the heretic. I am having one of my favorite sticks, the Leaf by Oscar, having the Maduro. I love this stick. It always comes through in the clutch. And then I'm having one of my favorite Karima said she thought drinking was mandatory. No, Karima, that's just you. Karima's in the virtual audience with us today. She'll be bringing some truth later on this week. So I am having Blade and Bow, one of my favorite bourbons today. I'm sipping it neat. Honestly, when I hear the term masculine, the first thing that comes to mind is toxic. I can't even, I tried to come up with something else, but when I really think about how I have been socialized to view masculinity, what comes to mind for me is toxic. So that's just, we'll get into that. I'll explain more as we go. I'm gonna kick it over. We got Grayson the pundit with us, fresh off vacation, got a little tan, got his hair slicked back. Come through, Grayson Leviticus. Introduce yourself.
Ooh. Sorry, I'm having some technical difficulties. Hi, yes, I'm back from the beach, back from America's Penis, Florida, as 30 Rock named it. Big Mouth named it the glory hole of America. I'm not sure which one's more accurate, but I was there and it was a good time, and now I'm back. I can't claim that one. That one's Tina Fey or Nick Kroll, whichever. So I am breaking new ground today, as my cast members have already noted. I'm actually drinking whiskey. I'm just trying to be one of the boys, just trying to fit in, and drinking this brown liquor, as gifted to me by my cousin John Hill, TFC member. Before the beach vacation, I went with him and his family to the beach. But he gave me a bottle of Elijah Craig because Elijah Craig was a Baptist minister, and it was a gift for graduating from my Master's of Divinity program. So I am sipping on a dram of Elijah Craig, and I am enjoying it. So when I think of masculinity, I definitely am in line with Christian. It's not a positive connotation, and I think toxic sums it up really well. And I think what sums up masculinity for me the most, as it is traditionally understood based on your working definition, I think about the men who only feel comfortable expressing emotion at a ritual of violence that we know as a football game. Not saying football's wrong. It's just a very violent game, and it's a ritual of violence. And it's the only place they feel comfortable crying, embracing, letting anger out in a way that doesn't leave their wives bruised. And they don't know how to be ecstatic unless someone else is ecstatically shedding blood or getting a concussion.
So that lets you know that Grayson's never been to a hockey game.
I have.
No, I totally understand. I want to backtrack real quick because somebody, Robert, asked a great question if we could help out with pronouns tonight. So going back to me, my pronouns are he, him, his.
He,
Grayson,
him, his.
did you? All right, Grayson's are he, him, his.
For the first time, he, him, his.
Right. The first time you didn't do it is the episode where we like really should do it.
Right.
All right, Myron, go ahead, brother.
Myron Randall, they call me the mystic around these parts. Pronouns are he, him, and his. I am smoking one of our cast's favorite, the Fat Bottom Betty. I had to pull out the good stuff. Now, all of it's good, but especially for tonight, I am drinking one of my favorite summer concoctions. It is a little wine, red wine, and Coca-Cola over some ice, equal parts. I call it the poor man sangria. I've been sipping on it for the last couple of hours, and I am excited about this conversation. Honestly, as it relates to masculinity, Smith, ask me the question one more time.
When the term masculine is mentioned, what comes to mind for you?
Yeah, I had him ask me the question another time because I'm going to refuse to answer the question. And this is why I refuse to answer the question, because I think every generation and every culture has suffered masculine malaise. This kind of misunderstanding of what y'all got to give me some time to define.
But you gotta.
You were rolling on.
Oh,
rolling on the river.
The idea of wandering and wandering to figure out what masculinity is, right? We see it from the beginning of time, even till now. You know, you see it in Greek mythology. So they invent Hercules to try and create an archetype of what a definition and an example of what man should look like. We see it in the 8th century, you know, in Greek epics when Homer writes the Iliad and the Odyssey, right? What is he going to look like and what is he going to do? And he's on this journey to find himself. Here it is. I'm not answering the question because I think whatever I say will be enculturation. I think it'll be false based on the culture and the generation in which I live. So masculinity is whatever you make it to be.
Bro, you gotta
If you're a
stop
man, you
doing
be a
that.
man.
You gotta stop doing that. Can you like let us warm up before you start doing stuff like that?
I ponder this stuff throughout the day, you know? I read my emails now, and so I know the questions in advance. And
Myron
you know,
learned his lesson about
I'm
reading
never
the
doing
email.
that again.
Oh man. Thank you, Myron the Mystic. That was excellent. That mic drop was well deserved, and so was the dollar jar. For those who are new to the Holy Smokes movement, the dollar jar comes into play when somebody uses an academic term that needs to be defined, because we make disruptive faith-based content for the everyday person. And many times when you engage content about theology and faith and religion, people throw out all of these academic terms, and it's like, what are y'all talking about? Because like, I got a master's degree in divinity, and sometimes I hear scholars talk, and I need a dictionary. I'm like, so we don't want to do that here. We want to make sure everybody can understand everything. Okay, V, go ahead, introduce yourself, and let us know, V, what comes to your mind when the word masculine is mentioned.
All right. Well, I would like to say that it's rough going behind Myron, so I will do the best I can. So what's rough?
Yeah, that's my fault. I'm sorry. I set you up. I apologize. I won't do it again.
And to answer Robert's question, my pronouns, well, you know, the general question, my pronouns are he, him, his. First thing that came to mind for me is power, but in a sense, kind of piggybacking off of what everyone else has stated. Well, minus Myron, but it's in a patriarchal, toxic kind of way when I think in terms of masculinity. And as far as what I'm drinking, I have green tea.
All right. Well, last episode, Myron had green tea, and he had some very powerful things to say. So I expect great things, V. Some people in the virtual audience are dropping their comments. Daniel just said masculinity equals another box society tries to put people in, and exclusive language. What else did I see here? For Karima the Truth, she said masculinity equals security. So there are a number. Jarrell said, when I think of traditional masculinity, violence is what comes to mind. So Jarrell is kind of in the same boat as Grayson. Also, Grayson, I resent that statement about football. I am a football player, and I resent you talking about my sport like that.
I'd like to point out that Christian Smith is in the Hall of Fame, okay? He's not just a football player. He's a Hall of Fame football player, ladies and gentlemen.
I resent all of the things y'all say about white people. I am a white person, and you're not going to talk about my people like that.
Okay, shots fired. Yeah, I don't appreciate that.
Can we go back to the previous question? I just had a thought.
Okay.
And I wanted to throw this in here. And believe it or not, I thought of a scripture. And this is rare that I throw a Bible verses. Well, okay, it's not rare.
It's not rare at all.
Okay, but I had this thought. There is this verse that says, the eyes of the Lord run to and fro, searching whom God can show God's self strong through. Y'all know that scripture, right? And I'm thinking about that thing, and it hit me. Why would God be searching? Right? If God is omniscient, God is all knowing, all powerful, sees all, knows all, why would God be searching? Why would it be forever recorded in the biblical text that God is searching. So, I think the Bible is not just a method book, it's a mirror book. So what must be lacking is not in God, it must be in humanity, right? So it must be that humanity is missing something. And what is humanity missing? Here's my thought. My thought is that you can't be who God wants to use until you become the you that God has designed. And whenever we try to place a term on somebody, i.e. masculinity, people try to get out of place to match the term. And then ultimately they get out of place so they can't get what God has for them. So God is only going to bless the you that he made or that God made as opposed to the you that you pretend to be. I didn't deserve that. That was just a thought. I didn't test that. I didn't try that. That just came.
It's the glasses. It's the shades. It's got to be.
You know what it is? It's the new barber. Shout out to Tyshawn. Yeah, Tyshawn hooked me up. I hit him up on Monday. He got me in the chair in 30 minutes. Shout out to you, Tyshawn.
Oh man, Myron Randall, the sexy vandal. Okay, he's getting us started off hot. Before we move forward into the meat of this conversation, this is Holy Smokes Cigars and Spirituality. So we want to give you a quick cigar tip. And today, I want to welcome you to the Heretics Humidor. All right, family, welcome to the Heretics Humidor. Today, I got a really good tip, and it's a courtesy of my man, Tevin Ackland, who works on my team with P-Square Custom Clothiers, and he's also studying to become a cigar sommelier. So this is a really good tip that I think you would really appreciate. So this tip is about how to reset your palate. You ever gone to the perfume counter at the department store and you're smelling all the perfumes and the colognes, and you need to like reset your nostrils for the next scent so they have you smell some coffee beans? Well, there's a way to do that with cigar smoking. Let's say you smoke a cigar and you get like a third of the way into it and you're like, I'm not really enjoying this. I think I want to move to something else. Or maybe you finished the cigar and you got stamina and you want to go to the next one. You can reset your palate by consuming citrus. So whether it be orange, lemon, lime, you can just eat it straight, or you can have a little lime and soda, a number of different ways. You can have lemon water. What that will do is that will cleanse your palate to prepare for the next cigar that you decide to enjoy. So keep that in mind. Cleanse your palate with citrus. This has been the Heretics Humidor. All right. Was that okay? Did I do okay?
Yeah, that was good, man. That was good. Right.
Shout out to Tevin Ackland. Shout out to Tevin Ackland. All right. Robert said, do mimosas count? Robert, we have to ask Tevin about that one. I do not know. Okay?
I volunteer to try.
Myron will try. Okay. So let's go ahead and get into this. We're talking about redeeming masculinity. And the reason we're having this conversation is because we're hoping to at least begin a discussion to potentially redeem our concept of masculinity within our culture from its toxic expressions. When I said I put masculinity and toxic together, it's not because I think masculinity in and of itself is toxic. I think the way we express it is toxic. So that's why I made that statement earlier. And I'm hoping that we can have a conversation to potentially find a way to express masculinity that isn't so full of toxicity. So let's just start there and see where it goes. And V, I want you to start us out. What are the harmful ways we've been socialized to view masculinity? V, can you start us out with that? What are the harmful ways we've been socialized to view masculinity?
Can you all hear me?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Well, to me, it's already been expressed as far as being overly aggressive.
Mhm.
Also, to me, it just makes me think in terms of like what I view to be toxic masculinity, which is it's like I view the world in a sense of it being culturally. I view it as mainly being patriarchal as far as like how it's used. Let's say men are seen as the top in pretty much a lot of cultures. So to me, toxicity in that sense would be okay. So let's say I'm in a culture. I know that men are seen as king or masculine figures. Let's say men are seen as kings, and I take advantage. I know that, but I willingly choose to take advantage of people that are beneath me or are my subjects, are seen as less than equal. That's what comes to mind when I think of socialized masculinity. Also, a lack of being emotional. You know, as far as in the Black culture, I have personally seen where it's frowned upon in some familial groups to cry, to show emotion if you're frustrated or sad. And as just piggybacking on what Grayson said, only it being accepted when it is expressed uh, in some sort of masculine sport, let's say, for example, or something, or pretty much in an environment where it would not be seen as gay, to hug, and not gay in the sense of like the definition as far as men, the actual definition of gay.
Mhm.
So that's my take on
Yeah, yeah. It's it's okay to slap a dude on the ass in a baseball game. That's the only place where it's acceptable. But if you did it in any other setting, oh, that's gay. I think about how guys always say no homo before we express some type of sentiment to each other. Like, why do I have to tell my boy no homo before I tell him I love him or I care about him or he was on my mind or I've been thinking about him? Like, that's how masculinity presents itself in toxic ways. Grayson, you have any that you would add to that, harmful ways that masculinity has been socialized?
That was a little bit different than the question you first asked. So the question you first asked was, what are the harmful ways we've been taught to view masculinity? And then the question you just asked was, what are the ways in which masculinity has been harmfully socialized? So which one are you asking?
Let's go with the first one.
Okay. I think we've been taught to view masculinity in the ways that masculinity has revealed itself. We are calling it violent because it's acted violently, and we're calling it toxic because it's acted in toxicity. And there really is no masculinity apart from the way it is expressed, right? So Judith Butler, writing about gender trouble, she's like a forerunner to queer theory, talks about that essentially gender is as gender does. And so if we've come to see masculinity as something that's harmful, something that is damaging, something that is repressive, whatever it is, it's because masculinity showed us what it is. And that means that it can also be disrupted, it can be subverted, it can be changed. But when we're talking about like traditional masculinity, particularly where we are in America, we're talking about the West. And where we get this notion of masculinity is the Industrial Revolution from Britain, where men were seen as the keepers of capital and the keepers of property at all costs, and women were the one to nurture the home so that the property could be maintained and passed on. And so the notion of masculinity with which we're wrestling is a notion of stealing and exploitation and violence as a means of self-preservation, with property that is then able to be passed on. And so I think we're just responding health in a human way to things that are very inhuman.
That's a great point that you bring up, the Industrial Revolution. It plays out like that. Exactly. V, you were going to say something?
And if I could piggyback on what he said, Also, when I think in terms of the Industrial Revolution, I think of irresponsibility as well. Because if you look at, I don't want to go on a tangent, but if you look at where we are financially and who has run our financial system, we're in debt right now. And it's all been run by toxic masculinity to me. So it's, in a sense, it makes me think of irresponsibility as well. Irresponsible power.
And and just to piggyback back, why would emotion be discouraged? Because you can't be emotional when you're exploiting someone. You can't be emotional when you're raping someone. You can't be emotional, because to be emotional would admit that the person you're doing that to is a human to whom you owe something and with whom you're connected. And those things are completely run counter to what men are supposed to be as the standard bearers of manifest destinies and American dreams, and et cetera, et cetera.
Yep. And the crazy thing about that is, you know, masculinity requires men to not show emotion. So we feel like if we're emotional, then we're not being masculine. But to be human is to experience emotions. So there's a name for people who don't have emotions. They're called sociopaths. So socially, we've been conditioned as men to be sociopaths. That's a problem. If the only emotion I'm allowed to express is anger and rage, that's a major problem with how we've been socialized to understand masculinity. All right, I'm catching up to Myron. Maybe I should skip him right here so that I can like get another chance to come back. Myron, tell me what you got, man.
Man, I keep thinking about that question and how toxic masculinity has kind of exposed itself, and it's this obsession with domination. And my thought process is that it's been so excessive to the point where we've allowed men to stand on top but not lift anybody else up. And maybe we need to rediscover what masculinity is and say that it's not really domination, but it's elevation. That a real masculine person is one who lifts someone up and brings someone up to their level. That is not just climbing the ladder, but lifting as they climb. And so I think that toxic obsession with domination is is what gets us in trouble, right? And that's why we've got the financial systems that we've got, right? What is my dad used to say? We try to get all we can and then ultimately can all we get and then sit on top of the lid. That's toxic masculinity.
Well deserved.
It's out like water now. Don't do it. Don't give me no more. Don't give me no more. This is gonna go to my head one day. Don't do it. Don't do
Yeah.
it.
I think I'm gonna point out the obvious one, that we've been socialized to view masculinity through our theology. I think sometimes we forget that, and this is a conversation about, you know, spirituality, and I think oftentimes we forget that the way we see God many times is the way that we see ourselves. And we're supposed to pray, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. But our practice is to try to make our will on earth be projected into heaven. So on earth, we see men and masculinity as superior. So then we need God to be the same way, to the extent that if we acknowledge any feminine attributes of God, it is seen as heresy or blasphemy. Like, how dare you refer to God as she? How dare you refer to the Spirit, which is a feminine term in the biblical Greek and Hebrew? How dare you refer to the Spirit as she? God is a man. The Holy Ghost is a man. And you know what? If you are that offended and that shook when somebody refers to the divine in a feminine way, that tells me more what you think about women than it tells me what you think about God. And I think we need to really unpack that at some point. Our theology is what helps to keep masculinity so toxic in our churches, in our families, and in our communities. So I want to. That was very kind. That was
Well
very
deserved, man. Well deserved.
Grayson, go ahead.
And I think too that if in our theologies, and I think one thing that needs to be noted is that for the vast majority of history, it's been straight and cisgender men who have been at the top and have been defining all of these things for us so graciously, not exclusively, but predominantly straight and cisgender.
Absolutely.
In our theologies, if our entire salvation is based in divine child abuse, which is essentially God was like, here, Jesus, come to earth so that then I can kill you so that we can save people, then cisgender straight men have all the right in the world to beat their children and abuse their wives because they were saved by it. So they're just slapping salvation all over the world and are theologically sanctioned to do so.
Ooh, listen, we're not going in that direction right now. We are going to pivot immediately because we cannot dive into that. That can be an episode next season or something.
Right.
Grayson, that was too much. Jesus, somebody come help me. All right, so I want to do this because V is our special guest, and I want V to share a little bit about his experience because V, you're one who identifies as trans masculine. And for those who are here, I talked to V about that before we started this, so I'm not putting V on the spot. But V, if you'll share with us, what does that mean to you to be trans masculine? Oh yeah, you're good.
Okay. Well, just by definition, because I don't want to assume that everyone knows what that is, but I identify as both trans masculine and transgender, which is they're fairly interchangeable by definition. So essentially, it's just me relating to or expressing myself or identifying differently than the sex that I was born as. So I identify as both. Me personally, I feel like I add to what I view as healthy masculinity, meaning I'm comfortable being masculine. I'm comfortable expressing my feelings, my needs, my desires, being honest, also not being aggressive, but being assertive when necessary. And that's to me a very huge difference. And also being responsibly powerful, which means to me being able to compromise with others and not taking advantage in situations where I may be seen as more powerful than someone else, and I don't view myself that way. Now, as far as in society, luckily, I've been pretty much welcomed in all environments. I can't say all, but pretty much all. But to me, my experiences have been phenomenal. Luckily, I have been in environments where I've been welcome, and some people have felt comfortable, even having me speak to their children that have the same identity. So to me, it is luckily been pretty well received by others. And then it also depends on who I encounter. Most people that meet me in person identify me as a male anyway, so it just really, I guess, I'm more stealth, as we call it, or serving real. You have to watch Paris is Burning to understand what that is. It's a movie, but that is what I would say my life has been like.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that. Thank you for being willing to just share your truth with us. And because the hope, I have an agenda for everything. I don't like to demonize the term agenda because everybody has an agenda. And part of my agenda is to show how inclusion can work in harmony. That me as a stereotypical masculine man, right? I played sports and I lift weights and I got a fine wife from the projects and, you know, all of that stuff, right? I preach and yada, yada, yada. The only knock that people usually have on me is some of my grooming practices because, you know, I get my manicures and my pedicures and all that stuff. So I've been called metrosexual. And some people have used that to call me gay, which in and of itself shows the issue with how we view masculinity, because when people can't think of any other way to ridicule me, they call me gay as if that's something that's going to hurt my feelings. Like, calling me gay doesn't hurt my feelings. Gay isn't a slur to me. It is not at all. Now, it's not my experience, but it's not a slur. I don't see anything wrong with gay people or trans people. So my agenda is for us to see that we can all be different and express our masculinity in different ways and be comfortable with that. And it's okay. Like, I don't need to put V in some special category. V is V. V is a human. At the end of the day, we're all human. And I appreciate V for having the willingness and the courage to just come and share some of your experience. Myron, you have any thoughts coming out of what V said?
I do. I've got two thoughts. The first one is, folks, you can't see it, but Christian has got this smooth skin that is fantastic. He's got wonderful grooming practices. And I prayed 30 days for skin like that. And the Lord said, your strength is perfect. My strength is perfect in your every weakness. So that let me know that my skin is never going to be that smooth. But
And look at those teeth.
you see, right? Pearly white.
Glittering. Like the gates.
If you want to go to heaven, you need to see Christian's teeth. That's what the gates going to look like. That's what I was going to say first. The second thing is, V, you have blessed my soul. Because I don't know if you heard what you said, but you said something so powerful, that masculinity is not about conquest. It's about consensus. That you learn how to have conversations with people, that you learn how to identify and talk to people where they are to build community and to build consensus. Maybe that's the way we should define masculinity, as opposed to having a conquest that we need to conquer. We need to build and not defeat. So you blessed my soul. Bless. That air horn is for you, V. That's for you.
Yeah, you got to stop talking. Grayson, what about you, brother?
Yeah, I think it's difficult because a challenge of queer theory and a challenge of deconstructionist theory, which is something that queer theory is based off of, which is essentially like Michel Foucault. I can't remember her name, but she's a French philosopher, if you know who I'm talking about, Myron. That essentially anything that can be constructed can be deconstructed, and that everything is constructed in a sense. And so a problem or a challenge is, it's like, okay, so nothing can be pinned on a wall defined. And I think when we try to do that, when we try to make one narrative the narrative, that's what Walter Wink, Christian ethicist, calls idolatry, right? So like, let's capture this idea in something that is worshipable, exploitable, tangible, when in fact the divine is so much more than a golden calf or whatever else we might idolize. So the same with social ideas, right? So like, masculinity is this, and you have to bend your will to this regardless of how God made you, where you are, where you come from. Robert's been talking about, indigenous two-spirit, masculine, feminine versus Western conquistador conquest views of it. So I don't know that we need to like define masculinity, even though definition is so helpful. And so one way that I've kind of thought about it is that any identity when it comes to like sex or gender, to try to keep it fluid, to try to keep it the mosaic of gender, is like, it's like water, right? So like, water is, when it's stagnant, it's harmful. When it's not moving and fluid, it becomes poisonous. But water, when it's moving, can't be harnessed to drink out of and provide life. So water that is captured in a glass is still fluid. It still can move. It still has agency, but it is captured in a way that can provide life for the person drinking it. So I think we need to view masculinity as like a glass of water, where it's like, when you need some of that rushing water, you capture it in something that it is then allowed to leave to provide life.
Man, that's good. That's really good. V, Myron, y'all got any thoughts on that before we move forward? Because that was really good.
Yeah, I like how you separated masculinity from sex.
Yeah.
Grayson, because we move in and out of masculine energy and feminine energy all the time. And when you start defining yourself in a static place, you'll miss the blessing of the feminine energy that you need. And if you can't move and adapt like that water, you ultimately can't be effective, because there's sometimes where you need femininity and there's sometimes where you need masculinity. And that's how you become human, as opposed to a definition of an archetype.
Yeah. Yeah. And we all carry both. I think that's something that we tend to miss. We all carry both. What happens is, because of the way we've been socialized to understand masculinity, that we tie it so clearly to our manhood, what happens is we just suppress the femininity that resides within us. We all have some masculine and feminine energy, and that's okay. But we've tied feminine energy to having sexual attraction to another man. And they're two totally separate topics. Like, they are mutually exclusive. Feminine energy has nothing to do with sexual attraction. I know guys who give you all type of masculine energy and they're attracted to other men. I know guys who have a lot of feminine energy and they're attracted to women. The two are totally separate, but we just always want to put them in the same category. So if a man does something feminine, oh, that's gay. That's gay. And it's like, yo, we gotta stop that. We really gotta stop that. That's just something that really grinds my gears. So here's what I want to ask as we just continue to move forward with this before we go into the after party with those who are here with us in the live audience. What are some ways we can start to healthily express masculinity? V, do you have anything you would add there? Some ways that we can healthily express our masculinity? And I'll even add a addendum to that, ways that will help connect us to the divine.
Well, to piggyback off of what you just said, the first thing that came to mind was there is no yin without the yang. So like you were saying, there's an absolute separation between your sexual preference and your balance. So I think if people just can establish that first within ourselves, we have to have balance. You can't have too much masculinity or too much femininity. You have to be balanced. So we have to establish that within ourselves first. And then from a divine standpoint, since the churches are primarily set on the patriarchal system, then we should implement that exact same thought process, in my opinion, into the church. So women, in my opinion, should not be thought of not being able to be ministers, pastors, deaconess, or deacons, however you want to identify them. It should be a level of equality established. If my thing is, there is a separation as far as how God, if we're starting in Genesis, how God wrote the story of how woman came about. Because chapter 1 of Genesis and chapter 2 are one and the same thing, but one is more detailed than the other. The first is, in my opinion, a summary. Chapter 2 is a more detailed version of chapter 1 as far as the creation story. But when it comes to spirituality or the church, I just think that yin and yang needs to be found as far as leadership and respect within the congregation.
Thank you for sharing that. And this is what I love about theology and biblical scholarship. There are different ways to look at the same stories. So one school of thought is that the creation story in chapter 2 of Genesis is an extension of the creation story in chapter 1. But there's another school of thought that says those are actually two completely separate stories told by different groups of people at different times. And then when the scriptures were brought together, they just put them side by side. So I am from the school of thought that there are actually two separate stories. And when you look at the first story, it doesn't say, God took Adam's rib and did all of that stuff. It says, God said, let us create humanity in our own image.
See.
Let us create humanity in our own image. That's how we get, the name Adam. Adam is not a formal name in the ancient Hebrew. It just meant humanity or mankind. So God said, let us create humanity in our own image. And the story says, as a result, God created male and female. God created male and female in God's own image, which means God is both and, not one or the other. And so that's one way to look at it. And V shared another part as well. So there are different ways to look at that. I just believe that God is both and everything in between. So I don't even want to just look at God in the binary thinking of God has to be man or woman. I think God is everything in between plus some.
Right.
Myron, you look like you got something to say.
Boy, that didn't bless me. He is all in all.
Yes,
Right?
sir.
Yeah, yes, indeed. Oh, I got to answer the question now. Huh? Is it my turn?
Yeah, go ahead. I want to hear what you got to say.
The divine, or how masculinity helps us approach the divine. Stop being masculine and just be you. That's what I think happens. That's what you need to do. Just be you. Here it is. In the words of Tiger Gibson, I found my exit. Exodus chapter 3. Moses, it's Moses' calling story, right? Moses is in the desert tending his father-in-law's sheep. He sees a bush that's on fire. And this is Exodus 3, I think verse 3 or verse 4. Here it is. From the bush comes a sound. It's God in the bush. And listen to what God says from the bush. Moses, Moses. He does not call him by his sex or by his gender. He calls him by his name. And God is a God who wants to know you as an individual in the identity that God has created you in, not the identity that's been assigned to you. So that's how you approach the divine. Be you and nothing else.
That's good, sir. That's good. Grayson, you got any thoughts on that, man?
I do.
Well, please share them. Please. We'd love to hear.
Just leave it at that. I think non-binary people are a really great way of looking at it, because it's essentially saying God exists within and outside of this binary, and so do I. So pay attention to what I'm saying, because I might reveal something to you about how God operates that has been purposefully kept under wraps. Yes, I was thinking it too, Robert, of course. Tell me you love me in private. But we've already had an episode about that, and I'm not going to talk about it because we'll be here for 2 hours.
Right.
But do make sure you watch his SNL performance. It was amazing. Anywho, I think viewing gender as a constellation wherein you can find whatever pattern leads you in the right direction you need to go and guides you and provides to you meaning, because there's all of these ways you can define and all of these ways that you can make shapes out of it. And there are stars aplenty, and you can draw the pattern and whichever that makes you feel like you and that resonates with you. And I think it's also like view gender as writing a song. You play the chords that make your soul sing, and you alone know what those chords are, and you have a right and a divine duty to play them.
Amen. And Ashe. Absolutely. As we start to wrap up, V, as our special guest, are there any thoughts that you want to share before we go to the after party? Just anything you want to share with people who are listening, who are watching, from your lived experience as a human that does not fit into social norms that we've constructed? Is there anything you want to share?
Honestly, nothing directly related to that, but my advice is just piggybacking off of what Grayson kickstarted with. I feel with most of this conversation, like the last 15 minutes, as far as fluidity, the biggest thing is regardless of how people identify, how they look, as we say here, their socioeconomic status, their sex, whatever it is, love. Love them, love them, love them. And that's all I have.
I mean, that is the greatest commandment, right? I'm going to be preaching soon at TFC, and there's a thought that I have that I'm going to expound upon when I preach, because traditionally we've only asked the question, do you believe in Jesus? Will you believe in Jesus? Won't you believe in Jesus? And I believe the better question for our generation is, do you believe Jesus? Like, do you believe Jesus? When Jesus says the greatest commandment is that you love God with your heart, soul, your mind, and your strength, and you love your neighbor as yourself, and everything hinges there. Do you believe Jesus when Jesus says that? Do you believe? If you believe Jesus, we wouldn't even have to talk about you believing in Jesus. So I think we need to start pondering that when we read and explore what Jesus actually says. Do we believe Jesus? And I'll talk more about that in the future. But this is something I want to say, because this is so important to me, because I just believe that as humans, we're all different and we're all alike. And our differences are not what separate us. It's our unwillingness to accept the differences that separate us. So as a man who has been traditionally seen as the stereotypical masculine man, I believe in settings like this because my issue with how we express our masculinity and how we defined it is that too often we define masculinity over and against anything that is feminine. So that masculinity has to be superior. Masculinity has to be stronger. Masculinity has to be bolder. And what we men do is, because our foundation for masculinity is merely what we define ourselves in opposition to, when somebody who we think should be feminine expresses masculine energy, it only brings out our insecurity in who we are. Because I'm not threatened by V's masculinity. V can have all the masculinity that V wants to have with V's trans masculine self. Grayson can have all the masculinity that Grayson wants to have with his same gender loving self. And it has no impact on how I express my humanity. I still love sports. I still love women. I still love doing all the stuff that socially we have said you are supposed to do as a man. And what they do and how they express themselves does not impede on my ability to express myself. And I want all the men who are listening or watching who at times feel threatened by the masculine expression of other people that you don't think should be masculine, ask yourself, why does that make you so uncomfortable? Why is your masculinity so fragile that somebody else's expression makes you question your own and makes you question the validity of what you've come to understand as masculinity? That's it. That's it. We're gonna go to the after party with the fam. There's been a lot of comments. Shout out to everybody who's with us. Come back next time. We're going to have an episode called Redeeming Femininity. So we're going to come at this conversation from a totally different angle with a totally different group of people, and it's going to be amazing. V, thank you so much for blessing us with your presence. We'll see y'all next time on Holy Smoke, Cigars, and Spirituality. And right now, we're going to hang out with our live audience. Peace out. That was awesome. That was awesome. Shout out to everybody who was with us.
Thank y'all.
Oh, special guest appearance.
Hey,
What's up?
Ross.
We can't see your eyes though, Ross. We gotta see your eyes.
Right. Can't see the eyes, man.
I'm gonna come up with glasses.
Well, they're looking like Darth Vader.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we did all that we could, in the time that we had. Anybody have any thoughts you wanted to share? Something that came up like, "Ooh, I want to share this, but I don't really have the time," or any comments that you saw from the live virtual audience that you wanted to jump on? Anybody, go ahead. Grayson.
So one thing that we didn't talk about was that masculinity defines itself literally as impenetrable. And that throughout history, it's been the inability or unwillingness to actually literally be penetrated that has defined who is the dominant role, who is the submissive role, which is why, in Leviticus, it is the penetrated male, the bottom, as the kids say, who is the one who is persecuted.
The kid.
Because it is. What?
No, I was tickled by you saying the kids.
Oh.
Euphemism for something, Grayson?
No. Absolutely not. But yeah, so they're the one that are acting like women, acting like those who are created to be submissive and penetrated. And so some people think that if we're going to talk about like redeeming masculinity, there are some who theorize, and I'm one of them, who think that Jesus was not only like penetrated by like the Roman male gaze, just like looking at in a way that like made him uncomfortable and actually like penetrated his sense of propriety and identity, but that if the purpose of the crucifixion was to humiliate Jesus in all of the ways that Jesus defined himself, ergo King of the Jews, divine, rabbi, etc., then it would have been humiliation to his sense as a man, and that Jesus most likely was raped at his crucifixion, which means Jesus was penetrated at his crucifixion, which means that in order for masculinity to be redeemed in salvation, in the crucifixion resurrection moment, that it is a masculinity that says, I am vulnerable enough to be penetrated and to be submissive and to not be in control, because Jesus showed us that by allowing himself problematic language, but by being that. Anyway, that's what I was thinking.
I totally accept that theory, but I'm not going to be penetrated. I'm sorry. I refuse.
Well, I'm not saying. I'm not.
In the Baptist church, we used to sing they.
What were you gonna say, Myron?
I said in the Baptist church, we used to sing they pierced him in his side all night long. For me.
Yeah, they pierced him so long that liquid came out.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. Oh, God. I'm straight.
Wow.
And listen, I'm not saying that as a knock against the theory. I've heard the theory, and there is some evidence to support it. So I'm not saying the theory is wrong. It is a theory. Like, and most of theology is theoretical, right? So it's not like there's like really any exact, we weren't there to know. And there is evidence in scripture that when men wanted to shame other men, they would penetrate them. That's what we get some of the Leviticus passages about man not laying with another man. That was about dominance. That wasn't about same gender love and affection. That was about dominance and emasculation. So I'm with you 100%. Also, I also want to acknowledge this, that in the story of Sodom and Gomorrah, when Lot, so the men came because they wanted to rape Lot's house guests, and when Lot offered his virgin daughters, they said, "Nah, we good." we want the men. So people say, see, it was about, you know, homosexuality or gay attraction, but there's a parallel story in the book of Judges. There are many parallel stories throughout the Bible that were told by different people at different times, basically telling like a similar narrative. There's a parallel story called the Levite's concubine, where the men actually did, like, trigger warning, they did force themselves on the woman that was offered to them. So you have two different narratives. The story wasn't about same gender attraction, and I'm not going to go all the way into that, but you know, that's just something to consider.
I mean, you can, right? Because the Bible tells us in the book of, what is Ezekiel 16, this was the sin of Sodom, right? Like, it says nothing about same gender attraction. It actually says what happened at Sodom and Gomorrah and why God was angry with them.
I think you need to go into the story, because most people have never heard the Levite's concubine, and almost everybody uses Sodom and Gomorrah as a homosexual passage, when the Bible latter in the Old Testament tells you what the issue was with Sodom and Gomorrah. I think it's worth having the conversation and delving into it so that people understand it from a contextual standpoint.
Well, yeah, I mean, even if we look at the Sodom and Gomorrah story, there's a hint, there's a cue that we tend to miss in that story. The two house guests come to Lot's house, the men gather around his house, and they say, send out those house guests so that we can force ourselves on them sexually, right? And there are a number of different takes on what they were actually saying right there. I won't go into all of them. This is the part that I really want to key in on. When Lot refuses to send out his house guests, he gives a reason for why he won't send them out. And the reason he gives is not because they're men. He didn't say, no, don't do that because these are men and homosexuality is wrong. So don't have sex with these people because they're men. The reason that he gave is because these are my guests.
Yeah. It's about hospitality.
It's about hospitality.
I couldn't say the word, y'all. Sorry, you know what I mean.
And I think it is more important for people that overlook this story to never question the reality. Why would they show up at Lot's house to have this type of party? It would precipitate that Lot has had parties like this before, so they know that when Lot has guests, that when you show up at Lot's house, this is going to happen. Even to the point later on in the passage, when God allows him to save his family, Lot goes to his son-in-laws while they're in the club or at the bar. And he says, hey, God sent me to tell you we got to get out of town. And the Bible says they laugh at him. They laugh at him because it is comical that God would speak to you when you do exactly what we do. So there are components of this that make this intriguing, and it forces us to realize that what we've read as homosexuality, it was an H, but it was the wrong H. It was hospitality, and how we treat our neighbors is more important than what our neighbors' decisions when it comes down to their sexuality really is. I think it is important, on top of that, Christian, since we went down this rabbit hole, to kind of give people the parallel story.
Before you do that, I want to give one more theory about Sodom and Gomorrah. There is a wartime take on that story as well, that Sodom and Gomorrah were in the midst of a wartime. So when strangers came into the town that people didn't know, they were concerned because they wondered, could these be spies? Because they were always threatened with violence. They were always threatened with war and with attack. So when somebody came into the town with whom they were unfamiliar, they wanted to go investigate. They wanted to interrogate. They wanted to terrorize these people to protect their town. That's another theory that you were never taught in Sunday school, but it's real, and there's scholarship to support it. So what happens in our churches is we're only given one possible take on the story, and we're told that's the only way you can possibly view it. This scholarship isn't new. Like this is I didn't make this up. This has been discussed throughout the ages, but many of us are spiritually conditioned in religious echo chambers that only tell us one perspective and say this is the gospel truth. And if you hear anything else, it is from the devil, and that's a lie.
And before you go to the next story, I think it is worth. I've never preached this, but it is something that I've been holding in my rifle until I could shoot it. If this was literally about homosexuality, what you'll find is I've never heard any scholar, theologian, or Sunday school teacher ask the critical question that when the angels realized what had been done, why did they blind them instead of taking away their genitalia? Because if this was literally about homosexuality, the easiest punishment for them would have been to punish the area that they have caused the most trouble. But they blind them critically because of the fact that you are no longer able to see who you extend hospitality to. You got to extend hospitality to people that you're blind to, whether they see your perspective, see your point of view, see your gender. And this is important because we read over the Blues Clues when we're reading the Bible, and we just force our cultural context in the passages that it doesn't fit. And having conversations like this allows us to take the stigma off, and then allows us to not be like these men and become blind.
Yes. And in honor of Jarrell, and I'm gonna leave it alone after this. I'm gonna come to V. I promise you, I'm gonna stop after this. In honor of Jarrell, who said, "So we finally coming for light." I believe that when we look at this story, and the way it's been taught, it is a crime. It is a crime against humanity that we've used this story to demonize same gender loving people, and we never talk about the issue with Lot saying, "Here are my virgin daughters. You can rape them to death so I can protect my house guests." That's
Christian,
the part. That's the part that is the crime.
Christian,
of how
we have talked
taught the
about
story.
this. Me and you have talked about this for years. And what it really says about American Christianity is that we are more digestible of pedophilia than we are of homosexuality.
And it shows up in Black families all the time.
All the time. We'll be silent to a grown man touching a kid, but we will allow our own discomfort or our own points of view to change what goes on in somebody else's bedroom. And we read it into our Christianity over and over again. And anybody who reads that passage and never says something wrong with Lot, because if I told you that I offered Kenley Rose up to have sex with grown men and not protecting in order to protect my visitors, if any of you on this screen that call yourselves my friends said, "Man, you really love your visitors, man, you amazing," and never say anything about what I did to my daughter, then we got a bigger issue. And that's what we've done every time we've read that passage. We've said, kudos to you, Lot, for protecting the angels, and we're going to put a blind eye to you giving up your virgin daughter to be gang raped.
V.
Two things come to mind. When you brought up Ezekiel, I was thinking about adultery, robbery, lust. That's what I was thinking about when you referenced Ezekiel. Also, when you bring up pedophilia, it makes me think, no offense to anyone or any viewer, Catholicism and the ongoing drama there. That's the two things that come to mind.
It's all mixed in there together. So many different ways you can look at it. I'm gonna stop.
Good old
Anybody
gospel
else
gumbo.
Lord.
Anybody have anything?
Getting fire today, huh? You just like, I'm ready. Boy.
Anybody else? If you're not familiar with the story of the Levite's concubine, is it Judges 10?
Yeah.
All right. One day we'll do a session at Bible and Beyond at TFC about the Levite's concubine and that parallel story with Sodom and Gomorrah. and we'll go into some of the details of that story because it's pretty
Horrific.
Yeah, it's hard.
It's
hard.
pretty troubling.
But
Anybody
here's
else
the
want to
thing.
say anything? Go ahead.
And,
Myron.
I say this all the time, that the Bible is more than just a method book. It doesn't just tell us ways to get to God. It's also a mirror book. It introduces us to ourselves because it's crazy. And it's not Judges 10, it's Judges 19.
Judges 19.
It's crazy that Judges 19 sometimes mirrors the front page of the New York Times.
Listen.
Right? So the Bible is letting us know this could be you. So guard your heart with all diligence because you have the same proclivity inside to do what they did in Judges 19.
Yep.
Myron, so well groomed today. What kind of?
I got a new barber, brother.
Are those wall clippers you used on your face today? You look very
It was a
beautiful.
new barber, brother. Isn't that great?
You see how I redeemed masculinity right then? You saw that? You saw that?
I see it. Yeah.
God bless
now,
you.
mind you, my skin is never gonna be smooth as Christians.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
listen.
He's different.
You're a pretty man, Doc. You're a pretty man, Doc.
Yes,
I'd
sir.
kick you
Yes,
if I
sir.
were next to you.
And he's in the Football Hall of Fame. You can be pretty and
You
in the
are a
Football.
HBCU Football Hall of Famer.
All right. Let me say this because I need to stop y'all. If you're here and you're
Don't
not a
try
part
to
of our
stop
Patreon,
us. No.
You can receive all these
people will be
compliments for the
memberships
day.
because how pretty you are, Doc. Let me do it then, since you don't want to. So let me explain to y'all why it's important to have a Patreon membership. It is very intriguing that scientifically people are more giving to attractive individuals. When you find out that people are more likely to listen and give to those who are attractive, this is a platform for $30 members because our curator, our creator, and our overseer, Christian God Daddy Grace Smith, is one of the prettiest men on the planet. He is literally pretty in a non-binary way. And if you are in a space where you can offer $30 a month to be in a high level aficionado status to receive t-shirts, paraphernalia, cigars, and other items, along with the fact that we're coming up with our Holy Smokes Mobile, where we'll be able to have an actual moving automobile that you can now come on, do recordings, have parties, and just smoke with us. Your $30 membership is important. On top of that, we don't want to cancel out anybody who cannot do the $30 membership. Whatever tier you can connect with us on, this is a great time to do it. Why? Because you get behind the scenes exclusives, you get an opportunity to stay connected with the panel, you get great gifts, and you get a chance to look at the pretty man on a consistent and regular basis. The Kingmaker level is coming soon. Thank you, Ariana. We're going to be implementing these components, and we are also doing our highest level in Labor Day. The pretty man level is for all the pretty men that will be able to pay a premium price and get pretty man benefits. A lot of your items will be light skinned. A lot of your items will have a very sensual and earth tone nature to them. And you'll be able to get some components that would allow you to get some pieces from P Square because pretty men need it. So we are doing some great things here. Now, go right now. Don't stop. Go right now to Patreon. Sign up today. We cannot continue without your support. We're looking for you, and we appreciate you.
Ross, how much is the pretty man level? Because I need to sow where I want to go.
The pretty man level is 125. It is 125. This also gets you whenever the pretty man a month. Whenever the pretty man is in your town, you get premium seating at any event that he's preaching or speaking at. You'll have a time with him behind scenes, 5 to 10 minutes of his time. You'll be able to ask pretty man questions. It has a lot of benefits to it. So those who are at the 125 a month level, we know that you're out there. We're not overlooking you. Get prepared for the pretty man level here.
Oh my God! I
at
need
Holy
to go.
Smokes.
Is DoorDash still hiring? Because I need to go get some extra cash.
Listen, Isha, Ariana, Al, do not encourage this foolishness. Do not encourage this foolishness. Do go to Patreon. Go to Patreon, but don't encourage this foolishness. Go join us on Patreon.
The interesting thing is going to be when people start paying $125, he's going to recant every statement he just made. There is a pretty man level. I'm trying to tell y'all. At the aficionado level, though, go get that $30. It is definitely worth it. The cigars, the paraphernalia, the behind the scenes, the after party, everything is a benefit. If you can do the $30 or whatever level you can meet us at, go to Patreon right now and sign up.
Do y'all take checks if I post dated?
Yeah.
We don't do checks, Doc. Electronic cash only, Doc.
Okay, I gotta think of another way.
Yeah.
Al, I do my own mani-pedi. So there's no mani-pedi dates. Like that's like therapeutic for me. So I do it myself.
In the 125 level, when we show up with the Holy Smokes Mobile, we have manicurists and pedicurists on site. So you get that when we show up in your town.
And if you're the highest giver, Christian will do the mani-pedi himself.
No,
I'm not putting you out there like that. No, I'm not doing that.
Listen, Pamela asked me to do hers one day, and I was like, I don't know what I'm doing here. I haven't, so no, I can't.
But
I
damn
can't
it,
help you with that.
I'm giving 115 and not 125. And he not my mani-pedi.
That's fine.
Fair.
Today, your $10 discount is available, but we're not touching your feet. I'm sorry.
Beautiful are the feet of those that carry the gospel.
I got beautiful feet.
That is the word of the Lord. That is the Lord's charge for us to take care of our feet. Go get a pedicure. Take care of your feet. There's no need for you to have crusty toes walking around every day.
Somebody hear you.
You're a preacher of the gospel.
That's another aspect of toxic masculinity. We too toxic to take care of our damn feet. Take care of your feet. I'm done.
Take care of yourself as a whole. You know what I mean?
I'm done. Thank y'all so much. Saturday morning. Saturday morning. Redeeming Femininity. Saturday morning. We got Callie Carlton Frills. If you've never experienced Callie Carlton Frills, go back to last season and check out the episode called Was Mary Actually a Virgin? Callie was our special guest there. She's one of the brilliant ministers on the team at the Faith Community. She's going to be with us. Robert, who is with us today in the live virtual audience, Robert is going to be with us for that episode. So please, and then Kareem of the Truth is going to be there. And there's one other person. Is it Tierney or is it Nikki? One of them is going to be there Saturday morning, 10:30. You got to be a part of the Patreon community to be a part of that recording. So come join us. All right. We'll see y'all next time. Y'all have a great evening.
Good night, folks.
V, don't leave, V. Don't leave.